Hi, this is Katherine. This is Taking Tea with Katherine. This is rose lemonade tea from Taylor's of Harrogate in a William Morris little mug. It's a design of his, apparently. And William Morris was not only a Victorian artist, but he was a Victorian author. So I thought that that was appropriate because I am doing a Victober announcement video for 2025. Yes, I am so excited that I got selected randomly to be a co-host of Victober. And I am not alone. There are 10 hosts of Victober this year. And that is in honor of it being 10 years since the beginning of Victober, or this being the 10th Victober. So why not do something a little different, a little special? And I'm so glad I get to be a part of it. So first of all, Victober, if you've not heard of it before, is a lovely event that happens every month in October, in which a bunch of booktubers and readers, get together and read at least one work of Victorian literature, meaning it has to have been published, written between 1837 and 1901, which was Queen Victoria's reign, written in Great Britain, Ireland area. So not like a writer from New York, for instance. Even if they might have been visited by Dickens, they were not Victorian. Therefore, doesn't really narrow it down that much because there's plenty to choose from. So if you just read one work of literature, you are doing great. You're part of it. But this year, there are always challenges. Every host has a different challenge. And this year there are 10 challenges, which might seem like a lot. Oh, I don't think I can do all 10. And maybe you may not, but maybe you can. So the thing is that even though there are 10 challenges, you might be able to double them up. So there's a tiered challenge thing going on here, that if you read a certain amount, you reach a certain level. And I just love the names of these. If you read 1 to 3 books, if you meet 1 to 3 challenges, you're at the Mr. Micawber level, who is a character in David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. And if you know anything about his character, you know why he's in this bottom rung. And then 4 to 6 challenges, you have Jane Eyre. 7 to 9, Sherlock Holmes, that's my goal. And 10, Dracula, because, you're supernatural if you... So the hosts this year, by the way, are Kate Howe, Katie at Books and Things, Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, Roz at Scallydandling About the Books, Elizabeth at A Literary Princess, I hope I'm reading all this correctly, Hannah at Hannah's Books, Jess, whose Instagram is Dickens and Docs, I believe. There might also be a YouTube channel. If I can find it, I will link it. Milena at Milena Reads, Roy at Roy Reads Anything, and me. So before I get started into what everybody's challenge is, and I'm trying not to do this thing where I just start talking about what everybody's doing and trying to link it to my challenge. No, I want to leave that up to you. So I'll try to hold it in a little bit, right? But I will maybe say a moment or two about the group read, which was put out to a vote, and on the Discord, which I will also link, the Victober Discord here. Got a lot of stuff to link down below, and this is kind of funny because it still has a price tag. One day I'm going to pick it off when I'm in that picking off things mood. And this is Hester by Margaret Oliphant. This is Mrs. It says here, but that's how they used to write it. And yeah, this is it. I'm excited because you can probably tell I have a bookmark in it because I did start it one year and didn't make as much progress as I liked. So I want to get back to it. And when I'm reading challenges, I'm not going to try to link it up to this book, but there are a lot of connections. So that could be great too. So anyway, the challenges are, if you choose to accept, Kate's is read a Victorian book where friendship is featured. Katie is read a work of Victorian literature that is not a novel. Marissa has read a work of Victorian literature where a character experiences a change in class status. So social mobility, rags to riches, fallen woman, etc. Roz has empire spotting. See how many times you can spot signs of the empire in your Victober readings. Elizabeth has a work by an underrated Victorian woman writer, so not Bronte, Gaskell, Eliot, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Christina Rossetti, any of those. Excuse me, Hannah has read a Victorian work that discusses education. Jess has stepped back in time. I'm thinking TARDIS now. Read a Victorian work set in a different era. Okay, stop thinking of Doctor Who right now. Concentrate. Milena has spin a digital color wheel and pick a Victorian book with a cover that primarily features that color. Roy has read a Victorian work of fantasy. So these are all fantastic. You might already be thinking of different books that might work with this and that might work with the group read, etc., which is wonderful. So now let's have a little talk about my challenge. So yes, I am also, I also came up with a challenge. So a little background, I was thinking about this year and how it is, the 10th Victober, so it's a little bit about anniversaries and stuff. And I was also thinking about the other massive anniversary this year. I mean, there's others. The Battle of Bosworth, if you were interested in English history, had a big anniversary this year, 540 years. But we're not going to get into that right now. But of course, anyone who's into Jane Austen knows that she was born 250 years ago, well, coming up in December. So a lot of different Jane Austen related organizations are doing different types of events. I went to a exhibition in the Morgan Library that was amazing. And, and all of these things, and I love thinking about Jane Austen anyway. But I was thinking about how much Jane Austen must have influenced Victorian writers. And, I mean, whether for good or ill, like some people may have reacted badly to her. Some people may have loved her and sought to emulate her. Or some people might have just taken her writing and said, I want to go further, whatever it was. My challenge is to read a Victorian book, and I would also say any kind of Victorian literature if you must, that has a connection to Jane Austen. So it doesn't have to be about Jane Austen. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be, though. For instance, her nephew, James Austen Leigh. I don't have it with me. I have look at me looking all around. I have a book that is a collection of letters from hers, and it has some writing by one of her nephews, but it's not the right one. So I was going to show that to you, but never mind. I'll link down below, though, James Austen Leigh, which was her nephew, I believe, from her brother James. I think his son, that wrote a biography. I read it a number of years ago. Now I have it on my ebook, so on my e-reader, so I'll read it there. That will be my ebook for the... Anyway, we don't need to know what my TBR right now. But that is directly a book about Jane Austen by a relative of Jane Austen. So that is already a connection. It was written in the Victorian era. Enough said. So that it would be enough, but that may not be your cup of tea. I don't blame you. Not everyone liked that book. Although I still think if you're into Jane Austen, that would be something worth reading. But nevertheless, there are so many different ways you can connect this, and you can probably connect this with a lot of these other challenges that you could double up, triple up, even. So, for instance, Margaret Oliphant wrote a lot of books that were slightly clerical related, like, about different church characters, like the Chronicles of Carlingford. And I have this right here, the Perpetual Curate, which I'm not recommending right now because we already have Hester, unless you want to read 2 Margaret Oliphant books in 1 month. But just being in that vein would be a connection. Even if Hester, I don't know if that's a direct connection or not, but you can say, well, she wrote books that were similar to something that Jane Austen might have written about. Jane Austen always had clergy characters in her books. They were always somewhat important, at least in, I think in all 6 of her books, there was at least one character that was clergy for good or ill, So that's already one connection. I believe that Margaret Oliphant, if I was reading correctly, wrote some reviews either of Northanger Abbey or Mansfield Park. I can't remember which, but again, a connection. A negative connection, it was Charlotte Bronte. She didn't really like Jane Austen, but that's still a connection. She mentioned her. Even if there was just a quote by somebody. Then I was thinking, even if you wanted to take someone that you like that wasn't Victorian, find a connection between them. Like for instance, Love Helene Hanff, who wrote 84 Charing Cross Road. Obviously, I'm not going to read her for Victober, but she was influenced by Arthur Quiller Couch. She also liked Jane Austen herself, and even though she didn't like a lot of um, fiction, but she liked Jane Austen, and Arthur Quiller Couch incorporated Jane Austen in his collection of the Oxford Book of English Prose. So, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, Arthur Quiller Couch wrote books in the Victorian era, at least a few novels. So if you wanted to pick him up, if you for some reason decided I want to read him, well, there you go. It's a little obscure, right? But not entirely. And then you got some that are a little more obvious, like Anthony Trollope. A lot of people think that they're not identical, but quite a few people have connected Anthony Trollope with Jane Austen in some way or another. I'm just showing you this book. It's one of the latest books I read by Anthony Trollope, which is Ayla's Angel. And I thought that the main character reminded me of Marianne Dashwood from Sense and Sensibility. Some may say the same thing about The Small House at Allington, which had two sisters, kind of a similar situation. I would say Dr. Thorne was kind of similar. I would say pretty much any of the chronicles of the Barsetshire Chronicles, which were a series starting with the Warden and ending with the last Chronicle of Barset. I always forget the exact title. They all have some kind of Jane Austen-y similarity. Sometimes people inheriting fortunes or waiting on a wealthy aunt, something like that. I wouldn't say all of Anthony Trollope's books, but even if the particular book that you might be picking of his may not be exactly like Jane Austen, you may just make a connection between him and Jane Austen and say, well, there, I'm meeting the challenge. Simple as that. I want to link below. I have a lot of things to link below. In July, which was Jane Austen July, Katie, one of the hosts in both events, wrote she did a video of I'm thinking about writing right now because of all these novelists. She did a video comparing, more recommending Elizabeth Gaskell books to people. If you like this Jane Austen novel, then read this Elizabeth Gaskell book. And I thought that was brilliant. And there's pretty much something for everyone. So that in itself might be a great choice. I immediately thought of North and South. This is my edition. It's not my favorite edition, but it's all right. It's the book I like very much. The story I like very much. It's a lot like Pride and Prejudice in the terms of the negative first impression and then the love story developing. So I would really recommend that. I think that if you read anything from Elizabeth Gaskell, Cranford's another great example, in my opinion. Wives and Daughters. I mean, there's just so many to choose from. And of course, someone who I haven't read enough of, I keep saying written because I think I just want to write all of a sudden. Always when I'm talking, I want to write, but when I'm writing, I want to talk. Anyway, I'm digressing. I haven't read enough of Charlotte Mary Young, so I cannot give you a specific recommendation, but I'm giving you author recommendations. So even just choosing one of these authors in itself would, I think, fit the challenge. And Charlotte Mary Young wrote a good amount of books of very different variety, but she has been compared to Jane Austen before. But just one major similarity is that they were both from Hampshire. They were both famous Hampshire writers. And honestly, I would just recommend, because I just want to see her getting more love. Even if I don't give Charlotte Mary Young enough love, I just want her to get more attention. And I just want to keep saying her name in the hopes that her works will get reprinted. You know, if I say it 3 times, is she going to appear like Beetlejuice? Anyway, so the deal is not so much that you have to make a very obvious connection, but when you're going through your selections for Victober, if you can just find some way, that crazy whiteboard, you know, with the little arrows, the little lines connecting all these little things that you see people have in back of them when they're obsessed with things. Just find that you can make the mental connection. You can just write something. Even if you're choosing, I would even say, if you're choosing a book or an author and you say, I wonder if there's any connection to Jane Austen, Google it. You never know. And even a marriage plot. You know, she was famous for her marriage plots. It wasn't so much that she was a romantic writer, even though she's considered romantic by some people. But even that might just be enough. So, I mean, I don't know if you're going to get extremely vague and say, well, she was an English writer, I'll choose an English writer. That's a little maybe too vague. That's maybe not specific enough. So I wouldn't say go that far, but just find a viable connection, and that's all. So I think that's enough said on that subject. So I just hope that you enjoy your whatever choices that you make, and just enjoy the activity of finding books, of maybe picking books that you already own that you've been meaning to read for a while, or maybe you just have a wander around your public library and find something. But there's going to be, I'm sure, a ton of other recommendations from the co-hosts, so enjoy. Hope you get to watch all the videos, and I hope you enjoy the reading. So that is all for now. I hope to soon make a TBR video, and I want to make further Victorian related videos for the next, for October. So I'm getting there. So anyway, I'm so excited, but now I'm kind of coming down from the excitement. So I think I better wrap up from here. So please leave comments below if you can think of any connections just off the top of your head to Jane Austen. If you have any thoughts on any of these challenges, and what maybe is something that sounds really exciting to you. If you have any memories of the past 10 years of Victorian reading, always feel free to share anything you want to contribute in the comment section below. And that is all for now. This is Katherine at Taking Tea with Katherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day.